Well, yesterday when I was in my office or somewhere here in the conference office, there's a variety of people here. I had two people come up to me and say they just wanted to talk. And I said, what about? So we keep hearing and we are experiencing that in many of our smaller congregations, that the congregation is not really in any need of going anywhere or not been talking about leaving the United Methodist Church. Are really quite happy with where they are and who they are. And yet, a couple of persons in that congregation get a bee under their bonnet and they want to do something. And they start driving the conversation or driving the train, as I like to call it. And they just keep pushing people that we need to talk about this, we need to take a vote, we need to leave. And our Midwest niceness, our Methodist niceness, and these are our friends and maybe sometimes our relatives in a small church, people with influence, and we just, rather than push back and say no, or we don't want to do that, we just sort of go along. And they said, Bishop, what are we doing to help that? How do we help the congregations where it's not the full congregation, it's one or two people who are really pushing an agenda here and our unwillingness to stand up against the agenda? And that is a challenge. And I hear that from a number of places. I actually see it in a number of places where we didn't expect a congregation to have this conversation, and yet suddenly, because of a couple, three players, they are. And it probably does, if you're one of those out in the pew, it's your church and you're okay with where we are and where it's going. We may have to get up some courage, laity, to speak truth to our friends who may be thinking differently than we are, to say that's not what we want to do. That's not where we want to go. And yes, you need to have the conversation, but we don't want to leave the United Methodist Church. And just because two people do, and we're feared that they will leave if we don't, we are in a time when some folks are going to leave. Which, quite frankly, I'd tell you that's always been the case. But some may, and there's a lot of grief in that and a pain, especially in a small town where everybody knows everybody, and you're going to run into them up at the gas station, And so our tendency in the Methodist Church is just to remain quiet and let the loud people be loud and drive the conversation. But I think we're in a time, friends, when other laity and congregations are going to have to step up and share their thoughts and their opinions and their where their faith is and where they think the church ought to go, so that we just don't let a couple of folks drive the church somewhere. And you wake up on the other side of this and you've left, and 2 years from now you realize, oh, this isn't going to work very well. And then it's like, then what are you going to do? There's not an easy way back. And so I think we need to be careful and help us have a holy conversation with each other, which is hard to do. So it's just not two people drive a particular congregation out of the denomination.